Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Some point I felt that while these NGOs, many of them are people with very committed people with good intentions, etc. In the longer run, it is not very impactful because it does not generate its own funds that will make it grow. It's always dependent on somebody's donations or grants, and beyond a point, all these sources of funds come with their own strings and constraints. So that's when I thought that probably the most impactful way of doing anything would be to have your own venture. And well, since my background was in engineering education, when I looked at problems, subconsciously, I was always looking at it through the prism of how can I intervene to make an impact, and that was always somewhere connected with some technological intervention. So in that context, I worked on a number of things. I started by looking at the problem of employment, and that led me to realize that employment cannot be scaled up in cities. It will just make everybody more miserable. It has to be employment in small towns and rural areas, and the largest potential for that is in the textile industry, which is already a large employer, but the people are all at very subsistence levels. How can we make them more prosperous than they are? And that led me to a formulation of what would be a good intervention. Unfortunately, I underestimated how difficult that intervention would be. It appeared very simple. So I set out to build some set of machines. I always thought that I never thought I was very good at building machines because I have never done that before. But I thought that if I make some steps and show that this is how things should be done, people would jump in, and we can form a good collaborative alliance with more experienced and capable people. But that turned out to be a kind of lonely journey because most of the people with experience perhaps rightly said that no, this is too difficult, it's not practical, it's not feasible. But since I knew no better, I persisted, and I'm still at it. I have met with some extent of success in doing that work from a technical point of view, but not been able to scale it as much as I want to. I hope to do that in the coming few years. So that was my first journey. It's also continuing till today. And along the way, there was a time when internet was becoming more and more widespread, particularly in rural areas. Every panchayat, there was one optic fiber, all these kind of initiatives, I think early 2000s. And there was there were a number of what are called internet kiosks where people could pay maybe 5 rupees or 10 rupees an hour and access the internet. And one of the issues I had earlier encountered was that for any economic activity, access to credit, access to finance at affordable rates is a very important thing. I don't know how many of you are aware when somebody comes in front of your house with pushing a cart with vegetables. What they have actually done is they have borrowed working capital at 10% per day. Morning they borrow maybe 1,000 rupees. End of the day they have to return 1,100 rupees. Only then they are eligible to borrow 1,000 rupees for the next day. So this is the widely prevalent reality, and with that kind of a steep financial cost, almost no industry or economic activity can be viable. So how can we move people from one of just something where they have no collateral to give and other things? The obvious solution to me was if they have a credit history on the basis of which they become worthy of credit, and then as they improve that credit history by repaying on time, they become eligible to borrow more and more. But all of this presupposes that they should have a bank account through which they can transact and their financial history can be accessed. And perhaps these internet kiosks can be the channel through which bank accounts can be affordably opened. The only challenge being that you also need a transacting place where real cash can be deposited or withdrawn. And the idea was to put an ATM. And this was a project that with then I think ICICI Bank and a group in IIT was being experimented. And they had put ATMs in a couple of kiosks to see how people would transact, whether people will trust a machine, will there be a cultural issue, will they feel that I cannot put money into one big steel box, what if I don't get it, etc., etc. Whether the sequence of operations will be very terrifying for the people. And we found that actually none of that was a problem. People were very happy that they finally had a bank account. They could safely keep their money instead of under the pillows. The challenge was that the ATMs were most often down because they were not built to operate in that condition. Power was iffy. The quality of the currency was bad. And one common thing that people we heard from particularly women was that there is only 4 digits separating me from my money. And if anybody takes it, typically the man in the house, if he gets to know it, he will just take away all the money. So we need some to ensure that the machine doesn't give money to anybody other than me. This is all much before Jandan account and Aadhaar and all that. So we developed a biometric to add into the thing, and all of that we did. So we did have to crack many hard technical problems, and we created a new category called rural ATM. It was about I think about 100 in terms of power energy that it needed. While the number sounds very dramatic, actually since I or the people working with me did not know how a conventional ATM works, we sort of built it ground up. Our model was we all count money and how do I mechanize that? Whereas a conventional ATM would consume about 1000 watts, and it has 1000 watts means 1000 watts of heat, and 1000 watts of heat inside a steel thick box for security means very difficult to remove the heat. Then all the electronics and other things will collapse. So you needed a strong air conditioner, which took another 2000 watts and all of that. So when we built our thing, we didn't take more than about 50, 60 watts. And therefore, there was no problem of heat dissipation, and therefore you don't even require the air conditioning and all that. So it became a very simple thing. And so while the conventional ATM required backup generator and then the concomitant problem, what if somebody steals the diesel, all these issues come in practical life. So we were able to do with just a small battery backup and a solar. So what is called uptime means the machine is available and not out of order, etc. All of that improved. Our mechanism of cash dispensation was capable of handling normal transacted notes rather than requiring only new what is called bank chest currency, all of these things. And while I was doing these things, there was an initiative, I think that time Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, and there was this new initiative, then new, called skill development. A separate department was created. Today it's a ministry of skill development. And the then recently retired head of the Murugappa group, Mr. Subbaya, was invited to head that. And after the conversation with the Prime Minister, he was coming back in the flight. By chance in a magazine, actually it was Time magazine, I got some unfair publicity those days for various things I was doing. And so in the Time magazine, my photo was there, and he said, oh, this is the guy I want to meet. So he came back and contacted me, and he gave me a long 2-hour lecture on what is skill development, why it's important. Till then I had no clue, I had not even heard that word. And he introduced me to newer words like demographic dividend, which actually meant that we have a very large youth population which is capable of creating economic surplus. But the problem is that while we have a large number of young people, most of the young people don't have the skills to contribute to economic activities, and we need to accelerate this. We can't do it the way it has been always done. There will be an ITI and this and that. There will be some tools. There will be some welding machines or something like that. This is the way it has been done for 200 years. And normal education of the kind that is delivered in classrooms has already undergone a big transformation. You have flipped classrooms, online, Coursera, and stuff like that. But skill development, hands-on skills, have not, the education or the imparting of hands-on skills has not evolved. No technology led innovation has happened. So I want you to think about this, is what he said. And, and of course, he said that it's like a, you either go to heaven or to hell. There's no middle path, because if we don't do something soon to include millions of people every day into productive economic activity, you will have a very large discontented population and you will have riots on the street. So either India becomes super successful and prosperous, or it will simply go to the dogs. That's how important the problem of demography is what he told me. And so I thought about it and talked about it with one or two of my friends who are my ex-employees also. And that process led to the creation of a company that makes tools using virtual reality for hands-on skills, in particularly in the manufacturing sector, but also in some other sectors. And so these are all companies you can see on the websites. So I won't go into the, I won't need to show slides. The ATM company is called Vortex. The company that makes these textile related machines is called Microspin. And the company that makes these virtual reality tools, that's called Skillvery. I named it Skillvery because it was founded around the time when Kolaveri was a popular song. But anyway, but there is a page on the website saying why the name is there, and that doesn't refer to the song. There is a more sophisticated reason given there. And essentially, my journey has not been that I want to be an entrepreneur. That was not like the explicit aim. I wanted to solve problems and solve them in a way that will impact many people. And it so happened that I felt that the route of entrepreneurship is a more productive way of making an impact than any other route. The other options where you can be a somebody who's like an academic, or you're a researcher, you're working in a science lab, that kind of thing, or you become part of a NGO which is doing some grassroots work among the people, etc. Among all the options available, I felt that business is the more promising way. Also, it's a more accountable way, because when I offer something as a businessman, then I have to make a promise. And if I don't deliver on the promise to the person who has paid me money, he's going to hit me. And I wanted that accountability. That kind of accountability is not there if I am, for example, in a salaried job somewhere, or if I'm working in an NGO, etc. My answerability is not to the people I serve, but to somebody else who is funding. The two have become then very different dynamic. This is very direct accountability if you are in a entrepreneurial journey. So, and that's partly also the reason why I don't like the dynamic of venture funding. I have received venture funding in the past, but the I would rather be accountable to my customer than to my investor. So it dilutes the integrity of the entrepreneurial process if one goes after venture funding. We are chasing valuations rather than customers. So that's not a dynamic that I like. So after some initial, probably unmindful episodes of taking investor funds, I decided that I will not take investments. So, and now I'm like almost retired. So all these companies run pretty much on their own. I'm more like a guide mentor. But last few years, I've been spending a lot of time on the EV space, and particularly on motors for electric vehicles, as well as other industrial and those kind of applications where energy efficiency is important. So I have developed a number of solutions for use in different cases, which different companies are adopting. Um, and what else? I have also recently, about a couple of years ago, I started an initiative which is based at a location almost near uh, Kanyakumari, a place called Tenkasi. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, where I have about 30, 40 people, all drawn from local colleges to develop products. The initial 1 or 2 years was more for me to figure out that taking people from non-elite backgrounds, you can do very cutting edge engineering work that leads to products that are good for the market. We built a number of things, some robots, some capital equipment used in the manufacturing industry, etc., etc. But now we have sort of narrowed down to two focus areas. Since I know that we can build pretty much whatever we want to build as a product, then the question was, what is it that you can scale? And that becomes more a market oriented question. Just because I can build a great robot does not mean I can sell if I make 10 of them a day. So all those things led us to focus on a couple of directions. One is we are going to make a suite of what are called test and measuring instruments, starting from the humble multimeter to more sophisticated ones, which may cost lakhs of rupees. So we have a team focused on doing that. And another team, I'm building CAD and simulation tools, engineering software, because that's one area, though India is called a software superpower and this and that, we only do services. We are looking at reconciling other people's income tax statement and payrolls. We don't have any product culture in software also. So since I come from engineering background, I said, let us make the suite of CAD tools for mechanical engineering, electrical, etc., including simulation, finite element analysis, all of that. Because all of this we are using very expensive tools which come from, say, France, UK, or US. We don't have anything of our own. So that's another set of products that is being built there. These two activities are happening out of Tenkasi. So this is broadly where I am. One is, of course, we are now not confined to any, it's a now more than 10 years old company, 15 years probably, and we are selling to all banks in India and abroad also. So we started with a certain niche, but now we are very broad. All categories of ATMs for all kinds of geographies we make. I didn't start with the idea of competing. I am trying to fulfill a requirement which the incumbents cannot fulfill. And those days, I told you I was not familiar with an ATM, because even to be a user of an ATM was a privilege. Unless you were a very rich person, you were not given. So I have only seen ATMs through glass doors. I have not even touched an ATM. So I know that the number of people who have access to ATMs is pathetically small, 0.01% of the Indian population. And I'm looking at a very different category of users whom the existing incumbents are not interested in. If they want to come, then sure, they can compete with me. But I'm meeting a different requirement. So I'm not really doing a head-to-head comparison saying, if that's what I want to do, normally people do that. When they want to build a product, they look at the existing one, they do benchmarking, they will do a tear-down analysis, see what is happening there. But the moment I heard that you need 3000 watts of uninterrupted power to keep an ATM running, I said, I don't even want to look at that ATM. Because I am counting with my hand, I spend less than I calculated based on some simple thumb rules, literally. I cannot be spending more than 2 watts to count currency, and that's all that the machine is doing. So if I try to look at that machine and model myself after that, maybe I will be a great engineering breakthrough I will make, and I'll reduce the energy required by 10%, 20%. But that's not my goal. I want to make it 2 watts. So same way, the ATMs were priced at about 30 lakhs. That's what the banks were paying, 30, 35 lakhs. And I knew that for my category of users, cannot be anywhere near that price, because you cannot justify for a bank that cost based on the small volumes of deposits and other things that the clientele there will offer. So I said I have to make a ATM machine at 1 lakh rupees. And 1 lakh rupees with um, 2 watts power, things like that. Finally, what happened was that, yeah, we actually sold. When we finally came to the market, it was a 3-4 year long journey. When we came to the market, we had priced it at about 3 lakhs. And the power was not 2 watts, it was something like 60, 70 watts. But still, way better than whatever was the incumbent one. And so then the dynamics was such that over time the NCRs and Diebold's of the world had to drop their price, and they had to come down to about 30-40% more than our price in order to, only that much brand premium they can command if somebody has to go with them than with us. If there's too wide a difference, then customers will prefer our offering. So they had to come down like that, and after a point they left. They Diebold stopped manufacturing. I think they left the business in India. NCR, I'm told, still makes, but they make it for export, not much. Instead, there are some other company from Brazil which has come, and it's our quote unquote competitor, but that's all fine. That's the dynamics over a course of 10 years. But this extreme monopoly where a couple of people are dominating a market and having a very, just a minute, having a very unfair uh, price advantage, that got broken. Not that I was intending to break it, but it so happened in a natural sort of way. We had to offer something, and then it had to be, the nature of the offering had to be broadened and diversified to meet other segments of market, and soon we were actually competing with them, though we didn't start out with that intention. And in that context, actually, one of the things was that the ATM is not a standalone machine. It's part of a network. And at the back end, there is a single node, which then connects to a server called the core banking system. So this node is called an ATM switch. And for historical reasons, the communication protocol and everything with that was set up by this company called NCR. And so that was the standard. But it's a standard that is not published because they are a monopoly. They don't have to tell it to anybody. So when we made our ATM, there was no way we could connect without going through the NCR switch. And so we had to figure out the protocol, the different messages that are there in a sort of black box kind of way, and make our ATM connect with it. And then they sent us a letter threatening that they will take action because we have copied their IP, and which is rubbish. I knew it because in a black box sense, this is called reverse engineering. Reverse engineering is not the same as copying. Legal things I'm fairly good at. You have to be able to survive. So when they sent me a letter threatening to take legal action, I put a suit on them directly, and it went up to the High Court, and their thing was quashed. So all these part of the game, but you don't start by trying to compete. You're trying to look at a problem and solve it. That's the only. The notion of what is a skill, how to upskill it, it's, I won't even blame the government alone for it. Yes, government has its own limitations, but an employer in a successful, profitable industry does not want to invest on skilling his own employees or skilling a community of people who he wants to employ, because they think it's a waste of money. They would rather poach from somewhere. So when I talk to them, they say, yeah, I will skill him, but once he becomes skilled, instead of earning 8,000 rupees, he will want 12,000 rupees. And if I refuse, he will go to the next company and they will give 12. So by skilling him, I am undermining my own profit. This is a notion that 90% of the people have, small, medium, and large. So it is not a technology problem. It's a mindset problem. Similarly, for this is a published study by what is called the NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation. They said that there is a mismatch between jobs that are aspirational and jobs that have a market requirement. So, for example, welding. There is a very large dearth of, any of you connected to the manufacturing sector would know, or if you talk to anybody in the manufacturing, they'll tell you, very difficult to get good welders. Acute shortage. But somehow it is perceived as a difficult, boring, dirty, strenuous, that kind of job, which it need not be. As long as it is done in good place with good protective gear and all that, it's as good a job as any other. But people don't want to go for the job. And actually, the salaries that a good welder earns are much higher than what some entry level IT data entry operator kind of person can earn. But somehow that job looks more aspirational than this. So they had given a long list of number of people who covet courses versus skilling courses versus the actual number of jobs that are there. And there was actually no correlation between the jobs that people wanted versus the jobs that are there in the market. So this again is because of certain perception. We perceive certain jobs as low end. It's not that we don't value money. We all want jobs that pay more money. And yet, if there is a job that's paying more money than another, but it is seen as low grade, then I would rather go to some other job which pays me less money. So it's a very complicated, this problem is there with the trainees, with the trainers, with the employers and government. It's a very complicated problem. I don't know how to solve it. Technology is only a small part of the whole thing. Well, success is always a very relative term. It depends upon what line I draw. At a purely technical level, I set out to do something, it works. And then if can I offer it at a certain price point, which is viable? Yes, it works. But then success means that who are your customers? So we have, of course, sold to a lot of companies. It is not a consumable, so they would buy it once. So how profitable is your business? How scalable is your business? And many of my buyers are things like government ITI colleges and stuff like that. And they have to go through tendering process. And this is such a new creature that people don't even know how to spec it, how to write the specs for a tender. So they will be influenced by somebody who has got something from Europe or China, and you say, write it like this in such a way that it keeps us out. So you have to play all those games. Very complicated. So business wise, yeah, we are actually successful as a business, but India contributes to 30% of our sale. We are very successful in Europe and North America. Again, another peculiarity in this context is that in India, people want to pay for assets. If you give them a big box and everything, they're very happy. They think they got value for money. But thanks to COVID, we completely reinvented ourselves as a purely software company. So all the hardware, we would give links to the customer saying, you can buy this. And then you subscribe to our software and it will be alive. And we have different models, pay-per-use, subscription for so much period, whatever. So you can scale up or scale down or cancel whenever you want. And that's a language that companies in India don't understand. Supposing I give a box with some software thrown in, say for 20 lakh rupees, and if all the hardware is purchasable for 5 lakh rupees, and I say now you pay 5 lakh rupees for the software, they think that that's unreasonable to ask 5 lakh rupees for a software. So they would rather get a full box with everything loaded in for 20 lakhs. So these are all different nuances which you learn when you get into any business. So from a purely business point of view, yes, we are a successful company. We are making some profits. Are we going to be a unicorn? No. And that was not the intention. So, but how impactful have we been? Probably very less than we wanted in India. And do I blame myself for it? No, because the problems are much more than the fragment of it that I'm capable of solving or I set out to solve. And um, in an unexpected way, we are successful in some other geographies, which is keeping our cash flows going. My own experience, plus the experience of some several entrepreneurs I know. And yesterday there was a very big automotive company, 1,000 crore automotive ancillaries and all. The company's name is Advic. Don't quote. This conversation is private, but you can see what they do. Um, and some other such companies, big companies, have all the experience I've heard is that if you develop something and approach a customer in India, they tend to dismiss that your thing is not worth it. The first thing, for example, an OEM would ask an automotive component maker is, who is your international partner? If you say, no, I did it myself, then you're shooed away. They want some big name like that. So the way to gain an entry into Indian market has been to first sell abroad, say that I have so many clients in Singapore, so many in Norway, so many in Canada and all that. And then with that track record, you say Mercedes-Benz has bought it, BMW has purchased, and somebody else in China has purchased, etc. Then probably a Tata or a Mahindra in India will look at you. Till then, they will not give you an audience. So there is this company that a friend of mine founded. That product is called Awaz. It is meant as a language training tool more generally, but a specific application of it was um, for spastics. And I mean, around it, he had built a number of ideas and other things, but he found that he was not able to sell anything in India. And then he has just taken to foreign markets, including China. In China, there's a big demand for learning English through his tool. So it can be used to teach communication in the broadest sense without language barrier. So it is, of course, one application of it is for spastic children who have difficulty in communication. But if a Chinese person wants to learn English, or if I want to learn Chinese, all of that, this thing can be customized for. So he has some millions of, no, it's only an app. It just needed a tab and an app. So it's an app you can download. He has some millions of downloads, but probably more than 90% of the downloads are outside India than from within India. So consistently there has been this experience. And one other experience for startups has also been, I don't know if things have changed the last 10 years or so, I have not been keeping close track of it, that this ease of doing business is terrible. So it is better to incorporate your company in Singapore and then have an Indian operations than incorporate in India. So whether these things are true today, I don't know, but this is how it was. On the topic of skilling, a bus driver or a truck driver in US earns a lot more than a professor of mathematics or anything I heard. Okay, so in India you don't have that, but still there are many professions which are considered not sophisticated, which yield a lot more money. A simple electrician who comes to your house will actually earn a lot more than somebody who goes to a neighborhood IT factory. But we have perceptions that are hard to change, and the what are called lagging indicators. After engineering as a career option reached its peak, the trend of even poor people selling their land to get their children admitted in engineering college, that kind of aspirational thing started, and a lot of engineering colleges came up. And then all these kids were out of job by the time they graduated. And by then the story was that IT is the career of the future, when already it was well past its peak. And so now most colleges don't offer any courses other than IT in different flavors. They'll call it data science, they'll call it AI, whatever, but it's all IT. There is no mechanical engineering department or civil engineering department, nothing. And But actually, there are no jobs in IT, in fact, shrinking globally, not only in India. So always these lagging indicators is what the people at large go after. And so there is always this mismatch between the expectation and the outcome. I think important marketing strategies is actually talk to the customer, understand the specific pain, and say that I'm here to solve your problem. No, I'm not here to tell you how awesome my product is. The moment you start that way, then you have lost that person's mind share. You you talk to the person, understand this problem, and say that I will give you a way of solving your problem. That's the nature of the communication to happen. And the channel through which you do that communication, is it at a networking event? Is it at a through social media? Is it by advertising on IPL? Will depend upon the nature of the market you want to reach. But the important thing about marketing is that you are solving the customer's problem, not trying to. So very often I offer solutions which I don't even make. I just connect them with other people who can offer. I may not even get any money out of it, but I have won that customer's trust, which later on will be useful to me. But the orientation is that you are there to solve the customer's problem. Okay, the kind of things I've been doing is B2C. I'm not selling shampoo or something. So things could be different if it were I'm doing B2B. Things could be different if it is B2C. But in B2B, normally the community of the customers you're targeting are already closely interlinked. If you target 2 or 3 people and they then start saying nice things about you, that will reach everybody else. So though they may be geographically apart, etc., they're all networked. They're in the same business after all. So let us say I'm selling to an automotive company. There are probably half a dozen to 10 OEMs of any scale. If I can talk to 2 of them and they're happy with something I offer, the word will spread. And if I go and talk to a third, he'll say, whom have you given to? I given to these 2 people. He'll immediately pick up the phone, he will know somebody there. Because that guy would have been working here 6 months ago. So they're all friends, though they are in the market competing. So he will say, what is this? Have you seen this? They have taken this. And if he says nice things about you, then you have the deal done.